Senator, you've served in Congress and then the Senate, and you've served through a number of different administrations with different presidents. And I've covered a number of shutdowns.
I just don't know what the fuck they're thinking, bro. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking behaving like this. And there's a reason why even the Republicans or just like the majority of the population hold Donald Trump responsible and the Republican Party responsible for this fucking shutdown, man. I see everything that they're doing here as like, let them eat cake posting.
I've seen a president during a shutdown kind of gloating about the ability to punish people or to take stuff away from people in states that didn't vote for him. Have you seen that before?
No, of course we haven't. You know, Chris, we are living in an unprecedentedly dangerous moment. Maybe the worst crisis in America, literally, since the Civil War. You have a president who is acting unconstitutionally and illegally. Guess what? These projects have been appropriated.
Yes.
They were signed by a president. It is illegal to rescind them. And then basically to say to people in Vermont, in New York, in California, oh, you didn't vote for Donald Trump? Well, we're going to take away funding that was supposed to go to your state. Illegal, outrageous, unconstitutional.
Yes, let me just follow up on that. I'm glad you made this point. Two things about that. One is, it's just so obviously preposterous that if you think of the Constitution and the power of the purse, right? The article.
That's it. That's what that's the remaining power of the Constitution right now. As it stands, nobody really fucks with the legislative body. It's been effectively neutered. Whatever, right? But the one thing that it does do still is this. It's allocation of resources. That is the only thing that Congress still has the power of the purse, the budget. And when Donald Trump takes that away as well, I don't think Republicans are going to be fond of that either.
Well, Congress has the power of the purse. That in a situation in which Congress fails to give money to the federal government, that somehow the executive gets more powerful? Like, that can't possibly be the case. That seems backward. And the second thing is you represent Republicans in Vermont, and I would say of all the politicians I've interviewed in my life, the vast majority, Democrat, Republican, Independent, genuinely care about all their constituents. Genuinely want to see them thrive. It is so weird to approach it this way.
Well, you got a president who was acting in an unprecedented way, who is a megalomaniac, who wants more and more power for himself and his oligarchic friends. And I want everybody to understand that, at least for me, and I think for many others in the Congress, one of the key aspects of this whole shutdown debate is that what Senate rules are about is Republicans need 60 votes. Mm-hmm. That's been going on for decades. And when you need 60 votes, the point of that is bipartisanship, negotiation. All right, you need 8 Democratic votes. Okay, how do we work together to keep the government open? Republicans, for the first time in modern history, have chosen not to negotiate. They are saying it is their way or the highway.
Right.
And that is not acceptable. And I want everybody to understand that if we do not make changes and fight back effectively, you're going to see 15 million Americans lose their health insurance through the cuts in Medicaid and the ACA. According to studies, 50,000 Americans die each year. That's what's at stake. People all over this country, you're already paying the highest prices in the world for health care. Guess what? 24 million Americans are going to see a doubling, a doubling in their health care premiums. I cannot allow that to happen to Vermont or to this country. I ain't going to vote for that proposal.
So just to be clear here, because I had AOC on the other night, you guys did that video together. I mean, the big sort of negotiating point Democrats are saying is, look, these subsidies are about to run out. People's premiums are going to spike. It's going to be a disaster. Let's come to some agreement on extending them, and we'll vote them and do a bipartisan negotiation. Like, that remains the demand, right? Let's come to an agreement on this.
Yeah. The demand is that we don't double premiums for 24 million Americans. That's the Kaiser Family Foundation study just came out the other day, and throw 15 million people off health insurance. Let me say it again, Chris. You know, the media, we get, you know, Democrats, Republicans, everyone's attacking themselves. The studies suggest 50,000 Americans will die unnecessarily if we don't stop this.
So Vance basically, I mean, my understanding of their position is we don't need you, screw you, we don't want to do this, we're also happy to do it. Are there conversations happening? There was this sort of big gaggle on the floor yesterday among senators. I mean, I know the House Freedom Caucus doesn't like this. Republicans hate the ACA. Steve Daines was on the record saying, I don't like these subsidies to keep premiums down. But it seems like you can maybe find enough votes to do it, maybe?
Our job is to make it very difficult for Republicans to go back to their districts and explain to their constituents why their premiums, which are today unaffordable, are going to double. And let me be very clear. I am not a great fan of the Affordable Care Act. I believe in Medicare for all. I think that health care is a human right. But I will be damned if I'm going to see people in Vermont and around this country see a doubling in their premiums when people today can't afford housing, they can't afford health care, they can't afford child care. We can't allow that to happen.
The cost of things has been such a front of mind issue in every poll we've seen now for the last 3 or 4 years, I would say. The president ran on a promise to reduce prices on day one. He said they were going to go down. Not just they weren't going to get higher slower, they're going to go down. It just seems like that has not happened. And do you feel like when you talk to the people you represent in your state, they feel like it doesn't happen? Like,
absolutely.
Is that the number one thing you hear from people still here in 2025?
Like the issue of affordability. People are going to the grocery store. They want decent quality food for their kids. They can't afford it. I will tell you that in Vermont and in many parts of this country, the cost of housing is now insane. It's off the charts. You got 20 million households spending 50% of their income or more in housing. You want to send your kid to college? Good luck.
Yeah.
Child care, unaffordable. So the answer is yes. The issue of affordability is a major issue for people all over this country.
I guess the question is, they think eventually the pain will be too much for Senate Democrats to bear, and 8 or so people will come together and vote to reopen the government, because while those insurance premiums doubling is a huge problem, there's going to be real pain from the shutdown, and they seem to be relishing it. And the kind of bet here is you guys care more about that pain than we do. What do you think of that?
Well, I will tell you, Chris.
I think this is yet another opportunity for the Democrats to basically stress the division between the corporate-backed elite and the regular people at home. Okay? Drive a wedge between the base of the party and the actual party itself. Because if you can't do it here, in this moment of unprecedented economic uncertainty, where these guys are basically behaving like fucking clowns, as though everything is awesome right now, if you can't even do it here, you can never do it. Just like if you couldn't talk about how austerity sucks when they were doing the Doge cuts, you were giving up on a major opportunity. This is yet another major opportunity to say, look, man, you might not like us. You might think we're too busy doing woke stuff, doing transgender, everybody computer, everybody transgender. But we're actually doing this for you. We're doing this so that the people that you voted for don't selfishly destroy your health care. You think Republicans think everything is awesome right now? What have I told you? There is one thing that you can't wish cast away, and that is people's pockets hurting. You're so wrong. Think about the farmers. Think about the farmers that need yet another bailout. Many of those hogs voted for Trump, and then Trump fucked them again.
I am a politician. If I'm a Republican, man, I do not want to go home to my district and explain to people why I am allowing huge numbers of people in their own congressional districts, in their states, to lose their health care. How do you survive if you don't have any health care? And to see premiums double. So yes, you're right. Nobody, sane person, wants to see a shutdown. The shutdown is hurting federal employees, people all over the country. That is true. But I will tell you, if I'm a Republican, and you notice, they don't talk about this issue. What they say is, oh, it is only the undocumented workers.
Yeah, right,
Obviously, a total lie. Undocumented people are ineligible for Medicaid, Medicare, the Affordable Care Act. So they lie. But I think that lie tells you what they don't want to deal with. They don't want to go home and explain to their constituents why premiums are doubling.
Here's some new, fresh Harry Enten. Some of the GOP are walking around like they're cock of the walk with the shutdown, but polls are on the Dem side. Voters blame the GOP more for the shutdown by an average of 12 points. Also, history says the side blamed at the start of the shutdowns is who voters blame by the end. The reason why people are blaming the Republicans is because they're in charge. They're in charge. And instead of this being the one unique opportunity for the Republican Party to be like, oh shit, we have to actually take this kind of seriously, they're behaving in the exact same ways that they have been behaving, which is not taking the shit seriously at all and posting fucking memes. When you do that, even the dumbest hogs are gonna be like, wait a minute, dude, but like you're not doing anything to fix the shutdown. You're just like that's your goal. That's the best thing you got is just to keep calling Hakeem Jeffries a Mexican. Are eventually going to look at the situation and go, man, this may be not so sweet. Man, shit is not sweet.
I think there are a lot of Republicans out there right now strutting around thinking that they're cock of the walk. But
this is a morning show. Harry.
I know.
Come on,
But
keep it clean.
We'll try and keep it clean, but shutdowns just get me so excited. Republicans out there thinking they're cock of the walk. But here's the thing to keep in mind. Blame more for the 2025 shutdown. Who do Americans blame more? They blame Republicans. The New York Times, by 7 points, they blame Republicans in Congress and Donald Trump. Marist, look at that. Blame Trump and Republicans by 12 points. How about Washington Post? By a 17-point margin. When you look at the data, what you're actually seeing is that more Americans are blaming Republicans than Democrats, which I think really goes against the conventional wisdom, because a lot of folks are saying, hey, Democrats are so divided. But at this particular point, Americans are placing the blame on the Republican shoulders, at least the plurality of them are.
Looking at this, does this match historically? Like, how is this different or the same?
Yeah, this is what I think is so notable here is we can go back over time, and this is actually a pretty familiar story. What are we talking about here? Blame more at the start of shutdowns. 95, 96, they blame the Republicans more by 16 points. 2013, blame the Republicans more by 10 points. 2018, 2019, blame the Republicans more by 14 points. And right now, on the average poll, you see that the American public are blaming Republicans more by 12 points than Democrats. So this actually lines up with what we've seen historically. When the government goes in the shutdown, at least in prior occasions, and in this one, what we see is that more Americans are likely to blame Republicans than Democrats, which again, it's why the polling right now doesn't exactly strike me as surprising, despite the fact that Democrats might be messy. Republicans are the ones who are getting more blame because that is what has happened, at least historically speaking.
And also because Democrats are like, look, they have all three branches of government.
Correct.
You know, so
that's exactly. I think that's so notable, right? It's the Republicans are the ones who have the House, the Senate, and of course the presidency.
Yeah. All right. So what about, at the beginning versus the end of these shutdowns? Because things get really awful for so many people. People notice the services are cut, but you also have the big furloughs. What do you see there?
Yeah, I think this is notable, right? I think there might be a lot of Republicans who would say, okay, these are early days yet, right? This is early days yet. But what happens at the end of the shutdown? Does, in fact, the blame change? Well, historically speaking, no. Who gets the blame at the start of the shutdown has ended up being the ones who get the blame at the end of the shutdown. 95, 96, GOP. 2013, GOP. 2018, GOP. Look, it's early days yet. Maybe history will be bucked in this particular situation. But historically speaking, if you're being blamed at the start of a shutdown, you're getting blamed at the end of it. And right now, it's Republicans who...
How did Dems manage to shut down the government not having control of the House or the Senate? What do you mean? They refused to offer 6 additional votes to the Republicans. That is a necessity in the Senate for them to be able to pass the budget. You need 60 votes in the Senate to pass the budget, as Bernie Sanders correctly described. And the Democrats are holding strong, and they're saying, we're not giving you those fucking votes until you come back to the fucking negotiations process and you save Americans' healthcare, which includes Republicans, by the way. Republicans act as though they're like an alien entity that is not living on U.S. soil, that is not impacted by the economy. But they do. They are. They're just so horny and so stupid and so racist that they don't even realize that this is like fucking them over. MAGA uses Obamacare. Like, MAGA does not live in this unique space where they're not impacted by healthcare premiums skyrocketing. But yeah, poll after poll after poll is showing the same thing. Americans are currently looking at the government shutdown. They're very frustrated by it. And they are, in much larger numbers, understandably blaming the Republicans for it. Now, of course, it takes two to tango. Obviously, it's a two-way street. Obviously, the only reason why the government is not currently being funded is because the Democrats are refusing to offer 6 additional votes to the Republicans, because Republicans have used a budget reconciliation to pass an insanely consequential bill that cuts $800 billion in Medicaid. $800 billion in Medicaid. That's what they are currently fighting against. That's what they're currently trying to stop. It's the right thing to do. These dummies on the right chirping in their hug box at Fox News, talking about how the Democrats are lying about these bills.
Republicans are blasting the Democrats' proposal, accusing them of trying to give illegal immigrants taxpayer-funded health care. House Speaker Mike...
Like, I love this. I love this. This is the faulty premise that this starts on. Just the abject fucking straightforward lie. I like that the entire underlying premise here, the first statement right out of the gate, is just a straight up lie. The Democrats, why won't they let us lie about the bill? Why won't they let us lie about the funding that they want to implement, which is $17 quintillion to Guatemalan migrants, illegal aliens? That's what they want. And they won't let us get away with it. They won't they won't let us lie about it. That's basically what they're saying. They won't let us lie about who the Democrats are trying to fund here.
Johnson, he joins us now, and it is great to have you. All right, the full screen here. $200 billion in health care benefits for illegals in the Democratic CR. They said no. What do you say?
Well, welcome to day 3 of the Democrat shutdown. You've got Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats have now voted 3 times to reject the clean, simple, continuing resolution that we passed out of the House 2 weeks ago to keep the government.
Oh, God, he's got no motion, dude. You ain't Trump, big dog. And Trump is too busy calling Hakeem Jeffries a Mexican. So you're kind of cooked. Oh, the Democrat shutdown. Welcome to the Democrat shutdown. Shut up, bitch. That's not your job. Your job is not to say the Democrat shutdown and dumb shit like that. Your job is to actually normalize the Donald Trump stuff. It hits so different coming out of your mouth. We're day 3 on the Democrat shutdown.
Operating for the people, real pain for real Americans, and they're claiming breathlessly, Dana, that they're not trying to restore.
This is why we can't have free speech.
Taxpayer-funded benefits and health care to illegal aliens, and it's simply not true. I would direct everybody right now, go to speaker.gov, okay? That's my official website. We put right there on the first page the evidence. I have the receipts, okay, as Bill said earlier. Chuck Schumer filed a counter proposal, a counter continuing resolution when they voted ours down. And what is in that? If you go there on the page, you'll see, go to page 57. It's buried in their document. But it says in that section 2141, right there, Chuck Schumer filed it. It says they want to repeal the health provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut that we Republicans...
Yeah, no shit, dumbass. They're not hiding that, dumbass. They're saying that openly, dumbass. What the fuck? No, he's not lying. That's true. They do want to fucking repeal the cuts. They do. But the problem here, the lie here isn't that the Democrats want to stop the $800 billion of healthcare cuts that are coming down the line. That is the truth. The lie here is the claim that the $800 billion that are being cut from healthcare, from Medicaid specifically, is actually only going to undocumented migrants. That is what's fucked up. The big, beautiful bill that they advanced cut $800 billion in Medicaid spending. Okay? $800 billion in Medicaid spending was cut. And they're going to do that through a process of like creating additional unnecessary hurdles for Medicaid recipients. Okay? So it's not a lie that Chuck Schumer is actually trying to stop that. It's not a lie that Chuck Schumer wants that cut to be gone. He wants $800 billion in Medicaid expenditure to come back into the government expenditures. That's true. He wants that. The lie here is the claim that the $800 billion was going to undocumented migrants. That's not true. Migrants that are getting any kind of Medicaid help are documented immigrants. Okay? If you are an undocumented immigrant, you cannot get, you are no access to any sort of government funded social safety net. You just can't do that. You can't get it. This conversation is not even about whether they should. If you ask me, obviously, like, yes, they should. But that's not even an issue right now because they're not.
Passed earlier this year and that President Trump signed into law on July 4th. Now, why is that so important?
Yeah, it's important to specify that they can't deny life-saving service through the EMTALA Act under Reagan. Prior to this law, uninsured, poor, and undocumented were literally dying in the streets due to being unable to afford care. EMTALA requires all ERs to provide life-saving care regardless of payment. Yeah.
Because, Dana, that's where you'll find they want to add back in almost $200 billion of taxpayer funds to give free stuff to illegal aliens. 100% in writing, not a Republican talking point. It's Chuck Schumer's own document.
Wow. Okay, so you've got...
Wait. So is the argument that Mike Johnson is presenting is that Chuck Schumer put this counter proposal for funding the government together, and in that counter proposal he wrote, as one of the footnotes, free stuff to illegal aliens, please. That's what you're saying? Like, what's this?
Not that.
Taxpayer funds to give free stuff to illegal aliens. 100% in writing, not a Republican talking point. It's Chuck Schumer's own document.
Chuck Schumer's own document says 100%, not a Republican talking point. We want $200 billion in free stuff, healthcare for illegals. They often use immigrants and illegal immigrants interchangeably. The cost of illegal immigration to taxpayers. No, this is worse than that. Chatters. This is where I come into play as someone who has been an advocate for migrants and migrants' rights in this country for a very long time. America has birthright citizenship. Therefore, out of 1 in every 14 households in this country, you have one undocumented parent. Okay? That means 1 out of every 14 American citizen that was born on U.S. soil has an undocumented parent. Okay, that means an undocumented parent came here and gave birth to a child on U.S. soil who is now a fully fledged American citizen. So the reason why I'm explaining this to you is because these guys do something really fucking indecent. They don't just loop in documented migrants with undocumented migrants. They also add, because documented migrants are capable of taking advantage of some of the social safety nets, but undocumented migrants are not. The reason why this is even more sinister, the number that the eye-catching number that they arrive at is like usually, I think it was like $5 billion or something. Now it's even larger than that. But the reason why there's like this large number that they can point to is because they consider anchor babies to also be a burden on the system that illegals brought in to the country. But anchor babies are American citizens. So that's not a part of the fucking undocumented migrant cost on U.S. soil. They're American citizens. But the way that these guys try to crunch the numbers, they try to make it seem as though if you are born to a non-citizen parent, documented or undocumented, okay, if you're born to a non-citizen parent on U.S. soil, they put your public school funds and all the social safety nets and everything else that you take advantage of into that number. It is the most racist, most transparent, fucked up, racist lie that you could present. Those are American citizens, big dog. You can't just add their fucking social expenditures in there to be like, well, these undocumenteds brought them here. It's fucking bullshit. Like, where is this coming from? Okay? It turns out they're just adding the children that have one undocumented or documented non-citizen into the fucking pile as the cost, as the overall cost and the overall burden to the social safety nets.
Wow. Okay, so you've got that. And you've got a few moderate Democrats in the Senate who may crack. We'll see when this vote goes down, and they may stay strong.
Like if I went to
Gene Shaheen,
if I had like Medicaid, for example, I would be covered in this. I'm born here, okay, but I would be covered. I would be the burden that they're talking about. Now, if I also remained on U.S. soil, went to school here, went to public school here, that would be a part of the additional expenses that the federal government took on.
He came on Fox yesterday and was talking about, well, there are a lot of people in districts where President Trump won who could be in peril if these health care subsidies lapse.
Oh, interesting. Wait, what the fuck? That's like, what is this? Is Mike Johnson on CNN? What's going on here? That's a good question. I'm sure he'll just let him get away with lying here, but
who could be in peril if these health care subsidies lapse. Here's what you said. Here's her argument right now.
Health insurance companies right now this month are setting those rates. So we need to get together. We need to address this. This is an issue that affects both Democrats and Republicans. You know, over 70% of people who are getting those health insurance subsidies are in states that President Trump won. 56% of them are in Republican districts.
That would seem to be pretty overwhelming, and I'm sure you're aware of this, and I imagine a lot of those folks live in Louisiana. What would you say to that?
Yeah, Bill, we're all aware of this. It's a total red herring. The Democrats have grasped onto a December policy issue. What she's referring to there doesn't expire until December 31st. We have 3 months in Congress to work through that issue. It has nothing to do with the September stopgap funding measure that will merely keep the government open for the people so that Republicans and Democrats can work here through the regular process to finish appropriations. They are trying to grab a red herring to distract everyone from the simple fact that they want to put illegal aliens back on the taxpayer-funded benefits wagon, and they want to, by the way, there are other demands in this counterproposal. They want us to give $500 million of American taxpayer funds back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to prop up left-leaning media organizations. They want to add $1.5 trillion.
Wait. What did he say? It's a red herring. Dog, what? Oh, God. I can't deal with this, man. I can't deal with this. Everything he's saying the Democrats are doing, he's doing. He says the Democrats are lying. They want to give undocumenteds $200 billion in free stuff. Chuck Schumer wrote it. That's a lie. Okay? It's not the Democrats that are lying. It's the Republicans that are lying. Then he says the Democrats actually are using the healthcare premiums going up as a red herring. That's not the red herring. The red herring is the lie that this is like going to immigrants somehow. Oh my God. It's so fucking annoying, dude. It is so unbearable to watch these motherfuckers get away with lying like this every damn day. And then he packages it up with like Sesame Street being woke or some dumb shit. Oh.
fact that they want to put illegal aliens back on the taxpayer-funded benefits wagon, and they want to, by the way, there are other demands in this counterproposal. They want us to give $500 million of American taxpayer funds back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting to prop up left-leaning media organizations. They want to add $1.5 trillion with a T, trillion dollars of new spending that we cannot afford right now. The American
By the way, notice how Johnson didn't even bother to lie about the cuts going into effect. The argument was basically, yeah, we cut those programs, but those cuts are not going to affect until 3 months from now, which is him admitting they did cut healthcare. Yes, they did. He doesn't have to relitigate that because he's presenting that in a false framing, that they are actually cutting healthcare for undocumented migrants. They're not cutting healthcare for undocumented migrants. They're cutting healthcare for Americans, American citizens. Undocumented migrants cannot get Medicaid. Oh, more often than not, like, do you think that there isn't a tremendous number of Republican Party voters that are also Medicaid recipients? There are, for the record. There are. As a matter of fact, as far as like funding rural hospitals goes, and that's where the Republicans live, in rural areas, Medicaid is massively consequential as a funding vehicle for rural hospitals that are already in a dire fucking state in this country. You're not going to have a hospital in a rural area in a 100-mile radius. You're going to accidentally chop your finger and have to go to the fucking veterinarian, as many Americans do nowadays in the fucking heartland, you know?
People cannot afford, and they want to do that on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. It's absurd. Let me tell you something. Every Democrat in the Senate that voted against this has voted for the same, almost identical thing 13 times. 13 times during the Biden administration over 4 years, but now suddenly they can't do it. There's one reason and one reason alone that this fight is being waged right now. They're trying to prove themselves to the Marxist left base of the Democrat Party. Plain and simple. Chuck Schumer made this decision because he's afraid that AOC or one of the Marxists are going to challenge him in his next Senate re-election bid, and that's why he's doing this. Selfishly.
I'm confused. I thought he was a Palestinian Marxist himself. Wait, so Chuck Schumer's not a commie? Interesting. I thought he was like the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine type guy. The way Trump talks about Chuck. Calls him a Palestinian, calls him a commie, calls him a socialist. Since when is he just like a moderate? Since when is he a moderate Democrat? There's a distinction between moderate Democrats and Marxist Democrats, which, by the way, who the fuck is a Marxist Democrat? Holy shit. I wish. I had to listen to my hairstylist talk about how the government shut down because migrants want health care. I said, no, that's not possible. They cannot get health care. She was insistent that they can. Just shows how people get their talking points from liars. Even stating logical facts isn't working anymore. I mean, dude, you just have to walk them through it. Ask them how. Okay? Ask them how. They don't have like a couple follow-up questions that they're going to buckle because one, it's untrue. And two, they never scratch the surface. They just go off of like, well, they do. I believe it. How do they?
And very dangerously for the American people.
Let's listen to AOC. This is what she said on her Instagram account.
This is what Republicans love to do. Whenever we fight to elevate the minimum wage, to expand Social Security, to make healthcare better in this country. In order to derail that, Republicans love to dangle this shiny object that says, but what if someone not like you gets it?
Okay, you work with Hakeem Jeffries and you work with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who do you think is a better communicator?
Well, she's way better on social media, and she gets all the attention. But remember what she stands for, okay? She is the most vocal opponent for Mamdani, who's about to be elected.
The Republicans have flown too close to the sun. My normie mom asked, do they want us to believe that Dems are trying to give universal health care to undocumented immigrants? Yeah, no, they don't have fucking, guys, for the record, no, like, undocumented migrants are not running around with fake IDs and getting fucking health care, okay? Like, there's 12 million undocumented migrants in this country. Do some of them have fake IDs and shit? Certainly, okay? Are they capable of going into a government office with a fake ID and getting fucking Medicaid? You're out of your goddamn mind, dude. That's not how any of this works. Like, having a fake social security card doesn't mean that you're like in the fucking real database. You can't just like fake this stuff. You can't just go and get. Also, that's not even what these guys are saying, for the record. That's not even what these guys are saying. Like, not only did your hairdresser in this hypothetical scenario made that shit up, they're saying Democrats want to fund undocumented immigrants directly, not like undocumented immigrants are getting together and like creating a system of fake IDs so they can get like fake Medicaid that they don't actually, they're not supposed to get. They're saying Democrats have written into the law that we want to give undocumented migrants health care. So that's a totally separate thing that is also not a real problem at all. One of the craziest parts about this is Medicaid and Medicare fraud does happen, okay? But it happens at the point of the provider. It does not happen at the point of like individuals committing Medicare fraud by taking government healthcare, government funds that they actually are not entitled to, okay? Rick Scott is a great example. I will not be repeating what I've said in the past. Ironically enough, when I was responding to Mike Johnson last time, he was talking about how he's going to cut $800 billion in Medicaid funding while claiming he was actually going after fraud, waste, and abuse. Okay? But the reality of the matter is, just like with voter fraud does not happen at the point of individuals illegally voting. Election fraud is what happens at the point of systems making it harder for people to go out and vote, for example. Okay, voter suppression. Republicans love reframing the narrative. They are oftentimes the ones who are defending Medicare fraud that is happening at the point of providers, like Rick Scott did, right? While simultaneously shifting the blame back to like regular Americans. And they do this with pretty much everything. Election suppression is a real issue. In order to justify election suppression, voter suppression, Republicans falsely claim that there are a ton of people who are going around and voting fucking illegally. This is not the case. This is not the reality at all. It's just completely made up. It's a completely made up narrative.
Apparently mayor of America's largest city and the cradle of capitalism. These people are Marxists. They want the government to take over and run everything. And what that means for you, listen, average American citizens, you surrender your freedom for the government to take over. It never works. It's destructive, and it is anti-American. And they are advancing something that their parents' generation of Democrats would have soundly rejected. This is not your father's Democratic Party. These people are dangerous to our system, and everybody needs to wake up and understand that. I don't care what they put on social media. You need to look at the philosophy behind that. And we're fighting to preserve freedom of the greatest nation in the history of the world that we celebrate 250 years next year. We've got to defend it. That freedom is not inherited in the bloodstream.
Yeah, we had a big vote here in New York in 4.5 weeks. That's coming up very quickly. Can I ask you, of these 7 moderate Democrats?
Yeah, we're defending your freedom to fucking die, okay? Your freedom. Guys, come on. This is the freest nation on earth where you're free to choose one of the 2 healthcare providers that we have offered you. Don't you love the freedom of being saddled with medical debt instead of having the scary government actually offer single-payer health care?
Describe to us. Have you heard from any of them? Is there a crack within that group?
Well, we hope so. I talked to Leader Thune late last night. They're working on that. They're hopeful that some of them will come to their senses. They don't want to be blamed for the destruction that is being wrought. There are real people being hurt right now. We have women, infants, and children nutrition programs that are now not funded. You have veterans health services that are not funded. Many of their services are stalled right now in the middle of a hurricane season. You got troops and TSA agents and Border Patrol agents serving us right now, defending the country without pay.
Well, you make an interesting argument with that. Does this vote, does it actually pass today and shock the world?
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm praying that this ends quickly because this is wrong.
No, I get it, but is that a yes or a no for today's vote?
Well, I don't know. I'm not in the Senate, but I'm trying to read the tea leaves as everybody else. I think there are cracks, and I think more Democrats will come along, and I hope they do it sooner than later.
Zooming out, just one last question from me. Kim Strassel this morning in the Wall Street Journal, she talks about Republicans, health care, the policy, and the messaging. Do you agree with her that the Republicans are...
It just doesn't make any sense because, like, on the one hand, they're advocating to cut these programs, and on the other hand, he's like, well, we can't even fund these programs right now. Isn't that damaging? It's like, okay, well, that sounds a lot like socialism to me, big dog. Maybe we should keep the government shut down then, I guess, you know? Which is it? Is that socialist Marxism that you're talking about over there that you want to fucking... that you want to fund all these programs? Isn't that socialism, that Marxism that you're talking about and how scary that is? Not your father's Democrat Party?